Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Blinken, for appearing before the committee today. I appreciate and share the frustration of my colleagues over the challenges with the evacuation, over the situation of special immigrant visa applicants and the Taliban's treatment of women and girls and other minorities. But I also agree with your assessment and that's been given by several others, that where we were when we got to that evacuation was because of the failure of both Democratic and Republican administrations. And I want to know where that outrage was when year after year, for 10 years, starting with Senator McCain, I and others in the Senate tried to get more special immigrant visa applicants through the process so that they could leave Afghanistan, leave the threat, and come to the United States. And there were a few Republicans in the Senate who blocked us year after year from getting more SIV applicants to the United States. And I want to know where that outrage was during the negotiations by the Trump administration and former Secretary Pompeo, when they were giving away the rights of women and girls, and when Secretary Pompeo came before this committee and blew off questions about what they were doing to pressure the Taliban to have women at the negotiating table for that peace treaty. So I think there is a lot of regret and a lot of recriminations to go around. And the important thing for us to do now is to figure out how we can work together to address those people who still need to be evacuated from Afghanistan, and also to ensure that we can do everything possible with the international community to help protect the human rights of the women and girls who remain in the country and those minorities. So, Mr. Secretary, that's where I'm going to put my effort. I do think we need an accounting. That's important for history and for us going forward. But let's stop with the hypocrisy about who's to blame. There are a lot of people to blame, and we all share in it. Now, Mr. Secretary, as you know, I was one of those who was opposed to our withdrawing from Afghanistan. I'm not going to revisit that, but a lot of my concerns were around the rights of women and girls if Afghanistan fell into the hands of the Taliban. So I want to ask you now, and you've been very specific on briefing calls that you share the concern, and I recognize that you believe it's a priority for this administration to do what you can to protect the rights of women and girls. So can you talk specifically about what steps the department is taking to provide for the safety of women and girls and how we're trying to rally the international community behind that effort?
Yes, thank you, Senator. And let me just start by thanking you personally for your leadership for a long time now on these issues, both on the SIVs and the work that we've actually been able to do to try to improve the program, but more work needs to be done, as well, of course, as on women and girls. From advancing women, peace, and security and that agenda to ensuring that there's an equal playing field for women and girls. You've made a huge difference. And I have to say, over the last 20 years, we have made a difference collectively in Afghanistan. And possibly the biggest difference we made was for women and girls. Access to education, access to health care, access to work, and opportunity. All of that was as a result of many of the efforts that we made and that this Congress made and supported, including with very, very significant assistance. This is hard. I was in Kabul after the president announced his decision. I met with women leaders from the then parliament, NGOs, a lawyer, human rights defenders, listened and heard from them about their concerns about the future. Just the past couple of weeks when I was out in Doha and then in Ramstein, I talked to young women and girls who we'd evacuated and heard from them both of their gratitude for having been evacuated, but also their deep concerns, more than deep concerns, about the future for the women and girls who remain in Afghanistan. So, with that very much in mind, we have done a few things, and this is where we really want to work closely with you and with every member. One, we've worked to rally the international community to set very clear expectations of the Taliban going forward, to include the expectation that it will uphold the basic rights of women and girls as well as minorities. And that's visible in the statement that more than 100 countries have signed at our initiative. It's also in a UN Security Council resolution that we initiated and got passed. And I know people say, oh, it's a statement or a Security Council resolution, it doesn't matter. Well, in the case of the Security Council resolution, just to cite one example, there are significant sanctions that from the United Nations on the Taliban. There are travel restrictions on the Taliban. And the idea that if the Taliban is in violation of the Security Council resolution that we established, it will get any relief just on that alone, the UN sanctions or travel restrictions, I think that's pretty clear that won't happen. That's just one point of leverage. We've been working to make sure that the international community speaks with one voice and acts together, including on this. That's one. Second, we want to make sure that assistance continues to flow. Humanitarian assistance, including assistance that's directed at the special needs of women and girls. We're doing that consistent with our sanctions, and we're able to do that by working through NGOs and the UN agencies. Now, I don't want to sugarcoat this because we know that while the Taliban seeks and will probably support and protect basic humanitarian assistance through these agencies, like for food and medicine, it may be a different story when it comes to things that are directed specifically at women and girls. So we're going to be very focused on that and trying to make sure that that assistance can go through, that it's monitored effectively, including by the agencies doing it. And I spent some time talking with the head of the United Nations effort on this in terms of having a clear monitoring mechanism for this and to carry that forward. Next, we will soon appoint, at my direction, a senior official responsible for focusing and marshaling all of our efforts on support for women, girls, and minorities in Afghanistan. I think it's very important that we have a focal point in the U.S. government, at the State Department, whose responsibility is to carry forward this agenda, working closely with you in the weeks and months ahead.
Well, thank you very much. I'm out of time, but can you share with us who that official is as soon as they're appointed?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.